Hello, SAFHER community, and welcome to another in a series of demos around the SAFHER platform. Today, we're going to be covering creating and reporting tonnage. So when we're creating and reporting tonnage, we have some prerequisite configurations that we need to accomplish before we can actually do that. Now, in previous demos, I've shown how to configure those program group types and set up revenue codes. So we'll cover just the overview of those as it relates to tonnage today, but we also need to configure tonnage groups and configuring compliance actions for delinquent tonnage, as well as configuring the tonnage report types. So here we are in the administration console, and you can see down here, I'm signed in. I am signed in as an administrator. And as I said, one of those initial configurations that we have to do is set up that program group type. And just as a reminder, that's here under program management and program group types. And when you click that, you have the ability to add new, and then you would be able to configure that. Like I said, I'm not going to cover that today because we've done that in a previous video. The next step is to configure the tonnage group types. As you see down here in the menu, I have tonnage management down here. And you'll see two configurations available here, the tonnage group types and the tonnage report types. We'll do the tonnage group types first. As I click into this, you'll see I have the option up here to search for existing tonnage group types, look for status, and as well as the associated program group types for these tonnage group types that are configured. And then we have the ability to add new. As we go through here, we're going to go ahead and look at these tonnage types that are configured. And I've got two configured already, and I'll show them to you here how it's set up. So when we do this, we just put a display name and a description and associate it with a program group type. Remember, this is that initial configuration that you need to do. And then you make it active or not. And then you have the option to create all of the units of measure that you collect on in your tonnage, whether that's for feed or fertilizer or what have you. And so you can just add these in here and determine with a name and then the component type, what it is that you're collecting tonnage on, whichever category it is, multi-select, and make it active or inactive. And then with these arrows over here, you have the ability to move them around in this list. And you can continue to add additional items as you need them. So I'm going to back out of this one. So these groups are used when you configure your tonnage report types. And you can select different tonnage group types, multi-select your tonnage group types to add to your report types. And you'll see that more in depth as we go to the internal site. But I'm going to jump right now and go to tonnage revenue codes because I need that as a pre-configuration for this tonnage report type. Now, revenue codes, we've done a demo before on configuring and associating revenue codes. So I'm not going to go really deeply into that, but just as a reminder, you would come into this revenue code management tab up here and add new. And like all the menus, you have the ability to sort and filter for various things at the top here. But if we hit add new, you'd be able to just add a new one. But I'll go into this first one here to show you how we did that. So we have a state feed tonnage, associate it, identify it as a late fee or not being a late fee, and then give it a description and name that revenue code category and associate the fee. If there is a minimum fee, you would enter that here. And if there is a late fee associated with a standard fee, you could do that here. And remember, that is a separate configuration for this revenue code for a late fee. Then you would associate it with an actual revenue code so that you can report on it and make it active or inactive. So once you've done that revenue code configuration, we can come back down here to the tonnage management, and we can go into our tonnage report types that we need to configure. Very similar options here as to all of our other configuration screens. You've got your ability to filter and sort up here for those things that you already have configured, or you can select new and get your options here. And as you can see here, very similar to other configurations, we've got a display name and a description. You associate it with the program group type, associate tonnage groups and compliance actions if you have any for this particular tonnage report type, associate it with your revenue code, and identify whether or not you want to associate a compliance action if this tonnage becomes delinquent. This automates that process so that if, based on how you set it up, if a tonnage fee requirement is delinquent and is not paid on time, it would automatically shoot them a compliance letter notifying them that they're delinquent and give them response activities based on what you configure in that area. And then you also configure your actual report schedule. How often do you require tonnage reporting? When is it due? What month? What day does the notice go out? And then how many days once the notice is generated do they have to complete that? So I'm going to back out of here and I will show you one that's been accomplished already so that you can see it. So here we are. So we named it and gave it a display name. We associated with the animal food program group type. We associated it with the tonnage group types that we configured. So we have animal food ingredients and animal food mixed feed. We've associated it with this basic animal feed tonnage revenue code and this compliance action that we have configured as well, this delinquent tonnage. And we made it active and we said, yes, we're going to generate that delinquent notice if it becomes late. And we've set up our dates here when those are required and the notice day and how long they have to pay. Now that we've done that, we'll go over to our internal site where you can see I am signed in and I'm an internal user and I'm currently showing as a supervisor here, but we're going to go into our entities. And this would look very similar if I was a entity owner, for instance, logging in an external user and wanting to complete my tonnage. As many of those things come in via mail. So as an internal user, as a supervisor or clerk, I can do those myself, but the process is very similar. So as we go through this process, I'm going to search for a facility that I know that I already have this set up for. So here we are at Nick's General Animal Food Store. If I select that, you can see here at the top, I'm in that entity's information, their overview information, and we have these tabs along the top where we can access different information. And over here, we have tonnage. So I'm going to select tonnage, and you can see I've got some examples here because we've been obviously testing this. So we've got some complete ones and we've got some pending ones. These ones that are labeled as pending are ones that notice that tonnage was due has already gone out. By selecting the complete tonnage icon or this edit icon over here on the right, you can see there's a little note there that says that this is how you complete tonnage. So we select that and our tonnage report will actually come up. And so now here's where we start the workflow for reporting this tonnage. And like I said, this is pretty much the same for an internal or external user. So you can see here the entity information up top, and then we get to our tonnage information. This particular tonnage was set up so that it has a fee amount of $15 per ton with a $25 minimum fee and a late fee of $75. Right now, you can see that this shows us 25 due because we haven't entered any tons. But if we enter the tons here, we can enter, let's say they have 100 tons that they are going to report. So they have to have already done that calculation and figured out how much they're reporting. And this will work as a check and balance. As we move into the next screen, after we hit next down here, we get into the tonnage report itself. Now I have to report on all the line items that I have tonnage for. And so you can see a combination here. Remember, we selected two tonnage groups. We did the mixed feed and the ingredients. And so you can see that differentiation here. So let's just say we also said that we wanted complete and supplemental feed, and we have ingredients identified over here, and there's an other category as well. But let's say we're just going to report 50 tons of alfalfa products, and we're going to report 50 tons of broiler feed. And you can see that once I've clicked out of that cell, it recalculates for me based on what I entered. And you can see I have 0 tons remaining. So this is our check and balance. This is how I know that what's on this page is what matched the entry screen on the front. So I'll select next, and you can get an overview of what we've claimed already. So you can see that we've claimed our 50 tons of broiler feed complete and 50 tons of alfalfa products, and that gives us our total tons. And so you can see that my total amount due is $1,500, and that's based on that $15 per ton fee amount for those 100 tons. And then I hit submit. And now that is processed and it kicks me into the payment flow. So here's where I could actually take a check or accept mail in cash if this was a mailed in tonnage report or a money order. But we're just going to say that it's a mailed in cash just to complete this process. And you can see we've accepted this mail in cash of $1,500, and I'm going to submit that. And we're complete. And that is the extent of creating and reporting tonnage, including all the prerequisite configurations that go along with it. Thanks for watching our video today. Look forward to sharing more demos with you in the near future. Thank you.